And welcome back to KTN Morning Express. I'm Michael Karanja. As you've rightfully heard from Mike and Sophia, yes, we are talking about cement again this week, but this week I take a more interesting focus, and we're just going to be focusing on East African Portland Cement as a company. And I'm now joined by EAPCC Managing Director Kephar Tande. Kephar, welcome to this show.
Thank you.
All right, just as an overview, cement industry, 6 players, supply, demand. How, as a player, one of those institutional players who have been here for a longer time, feel about the entry of new players and how the industry is shaping out?
Thank you, Michael. I think it's true. We now have an industry that has really expanded in terms of players. I think this is good for the consumer and for the country in general. It will introduce a lot more competition than was present before. And I believe that the consumer always gains in a competitive environment. We should get better prices, more readily available product, and the country generally should be able to supply its building needs.
Yeah. But just looking at the way supply is outstripping demand, as a company, are you looking for external markets where perhaps you can actually export cement rather than just have it here and it's not moving?
Yes. Obviously, whenever a market gets crowded, you have to look for other markets, and that's what we are doing. There is a wider region in this part of the world, and it's all looking at basically where the cement is needed, wherever it is in this region. And I think this region is also expanding very rapidly. We've got lots of new projects coming up in Uganda. We still have South Sudan, despite the fact that they had problems. We still have markets, possibilities even in Tanzania and Burundi and Rwanda. So I think based on the regional outlook, I think we still feel that there is a lot of opportunity.
Obviously, cement industry liberalized market. How are you dealing with the influx of imports, given that it's not actually controlled by any measure? So are you finding yourselves competing with cheaper import, or what people would generally consider cheaper imports, especially for that lucrative construction business?
Yeah, the best way to compete is always to be on top of your game and make sure that your costs are not just competitive in terms of the local market, but internationally. And that's why we've been pushing the government to ensure that the infrastructure is good, that we've got good cost of power, and all other inputs are available at a reasonable cost, so that we can be able to compete, not just locally, but internationally. But having said so, obviously there are certain countries that sometimes consider fair competition not part of the game. So we just make sure that we don't get cement dumped in this market from markets that have surplus at below cost.
Right. When you look at that kind of demand, can you attribute this? Because I was just looking at your last year's financials. You hit a net loss of about 386 million from about a profit of 1.8 billion a year before. Just looking at that, did that weigh significantly on your company's performance?
Yes, we certainly had concerns on that. But obviously, you will notice that we're still healthy as a company. We're still healthy financially. We hit a bad patch because of basically of our internal equipment and performance of our productive equipment. That is something that has been now done and addressed. And I think going forward, we are looking at an improved performance, improved productivity, availability of our cement, and better prices for the customer. So these things will get us back on track. And we do not feel threatened or worried at all going forward.
Obviously, June is fast approaching, so do you see, what's your outlook in terms of performance
for 2015? In June, we will be back to profitability. That is what we would like to tell our investors. Obviously, we will not be spectacular like we would have liked to, but we will be back to profitability. We've upgraded our plant. We have addressed issues that customers have generally brought to our attention. Our distribution footprint has improved, and we are continuing to improve it. We are looking at external markets where we are still improving our presence, So we expect improved performance.
Are there any external markets that you're able to share with us, perhaps that you're looking at more keenly than others?
Our strong market is in Uganda. Okay. There we have our facilities there. We have a branch. And we're looking at Eastern Congo and parts of Rwanda.
For distribution or setting up as well?
For distribution. Okay. At the moment, we are looking at distribution, strengthening our presence there, and then in future we will look at investments there.
Obviously, Mr. Kephar, you don't look very put down by competition, and you obviously know that there are other players coming into this market. When you just look from 6 to 7 and the way the market is, are you confident that the outlook for industry players such as yourself will still remain, all fundamentals will remain the same?
Yes, I think so. I'm not worried because we've been present in this market for many years. This is not something that is new to us. We have the confidence of our customers. Our product continues to be of good quality, and we are improving our distribution and availability. Yeah. So we do not see that competition has come to destroy or make us less effective. We will compete, and I believe that we shall be able to meet the expectations of our investors.
When I was just going through your website yesterday, I found a very interesting page that I don't see on most pages, and that is research and development. Just how important is innovation and just trying to stay ahead of the game for companies such for EAPCC?
It's very important because a business that doesn't innovate will certainly be left behind. So we are looking at new products all the time, improved products for especially the low end of the market. Yep. Where perhaps people do not have much money to spend on building. So we are looking at that. There are many end user needs that we can serve, such as low cost housing or other cement-based products. So we are doing research in that regard, and we are partnering with institutions of higher learning to be able to understand the new technologies that are coming online. Yeah. So these are things that we are doing all the time, and I think going forward, this is going to become a bigger plank in our product mix, because we have to respond to the national needs of our development at all levels.
So is this a matter of looking at things like prefab, ready-to-use concrete, and such like products?
Yes. At the moment, we have a new line for paving blocks, which is already in production. We are looking in the near future at premix or ready mix, and we are looking at other products, other concrete products that are useful in the building sector. We're also looking, as I said, at low-cost housing solutions. Yeah. Yes, such as those prefabs. Yes.
When we were looking at results, you had indicated that 2.5 billion shillings was about what you estimated to be using in terms of capital outlay in this financial year. Just looking at that, have you been able to use that, or have you even gone looking for more?
No, we are in that program. Mm-hmm. Currently, we have a new parking line that is about to be completed, and that will increase our parking capacity by another 600,000 tons. We are looking at introducing a new line for milling that should come online in another 2 years or so. And we are looking at increasing our clinker production capacity. So basically, we are expanding our capacity. Yeah. And we expect that based on that in the coming years, as we have new bigger projects by government, such as the SGR, the new huge improvement of roads that is going on, we should be able to play a leading role in providing this cement and concrete products. Yeah.
And how are you generating the funds? Is it internally from internal revenues, or are you looking for, because you've seen corporate bonds have been something of a success over the last 1.5 years, so are you looking for capital outlay, looking for people to take a rights issue, or how are you looking to finance expansion?
On funding, we are using a mix of internally generated funds as well as from the money markets, from our banking facilities. We haven't yet gone in the corporate bond way, But obviously that too is in the works as soon as possible. Yeah.
Right. Just looking at this, someone pointed out to me that I had to ask you this. More or less, by virtue of shareholding, you're more or less a government institution.
Yeah.
So how is it as a government institution in a very demanding market, competing with more or less in a liberalized market?
Yeah. Well, I think it is both tough and it also has its own advantages. I think that it is important for us to be able to compete as a government institution, because that serves as an example that also government-owned institutions are not left behind just because they are government institutions. That's number one. The number two thing is that it gives government an insight into the challenges that are in the market much more effectively than it would looking from the outside.
Yeah.
And this is something useful because it helps shape policy of government. But of course it has its own drawbacks, but we have been addressing this with government. And we believe that they will be resolved going forward.
Just looking at that liberalized market, but a lot of the money spent that is coming is actually from government. So does EAPCC perhaps feel that there should be also a fair share for more or less a government institution to take part in some of those large capex projects?
Yes, I think so. But of course, we have to be competitive.
Yeah.
We cannot increase the cost of government projects just because we are a government body. We are competitive. We have to maintain competitiveness. But of course, since we are a government body, obviously we expect that we are given like a fair chance. Yeah, a fair chance. We are not saying that we should be given preference just because we are government. No, as long as we are competitive, we are able to supply the product, then we expect that we should get government business.
Right. Last 2 years, not very likable headlines coming out of EAPCC, boardroom wrangles. Is that behind EAPCC, and are you looking to move forward from that with the kind of board that you have to offer strategic direction?
Yes. Everyone, all the stakeholders generally agree that we do not want whatever has happened in the past to keep going on. So we are now looking forward. We have basically focused ourselves on the needs of our customers, and that's all that we're interested in doing now.
Yeah. Also a fair question that I have to put to you.
Yeah.
Lafarge, 41% stake in EAPCC, majority stake in Bamburi. Some have put that kind of shareholding by one entity, more or less, in terms of the cement market, as one that could be used subject to abuse in terms of market dominance and creating unfair advantage over the rest of the players. Is that something that you take on board lightly, or do you believe that the market is still liberal enough for everyone to have a fair chance to compete?
Well, this is now a big market, and there are many players. There are now 7, in fact, 7 players. So I don't think there is anyone in this market now capable of manipulating it or taking dominance to the extent that they would cause concern. That's my view. So I think basically that is already taken care of. Yeah.
Obviously, looking at obviously capital infrastructure projects are what is big right now. But as in terms of EAPC, what else excites you about growth in 2015 moving forward?
I think basically also the growth in private sector investment. I mean, the major real estate, real estate projects that are being carried out by private developers. That's really another big part of this market. And the growing middle class.
Yep.
The bulge in the middle class is quite discernible.
Yep.
And it's likely to continue, of course. And generally the prospects of the economy. I think Kenya is now a new frontier in terms of the interests of international investors.
And if I was to ask, why hasn't any cement company just gone full out into the real estate business? I mean, you have one of the most crucial ingredients for what is needed for construction. Just putting it out there, perhaps is it something you're looking at just to go fully fledged, or have at least a substantial amount of what you do part of just meeting that housing need that we have? Is it a probable business venture, or is it something that you want to distance yourself from?
It's related.
Yeah.
It's obviously related. It has its own specific demands and risks. So I think in terms of getting into it, it's usually a whole new line of business.
Yeah.
I think that going forward, you will see that happening because we have the ingredient, as you say. But obviously, if you want to focus on your core business, I think that's the first thing you need to do. You get it under control. And then if you wish to expand to other lines, then you can do so from a firm ground. So I think that the growth in the sector is driven by the growth also in real estate. And I think that kind of symbiotic relationship in these two areas of the building industry is best handled the way it's being handled right now.
Right. Finally, excited about the future?
Very. I think that generally excited about the building industry in Kenya and the prospects of this economy.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That has been Mr. Kephar Tande, the Managing Director for East African Portland Cement, just telling us more about the company and its future outlook in terms of what the cement industry is apt for growth.